Pat?
Yes.
We're now going to University of West Florida.
Okay, fine, thank you. I voted yes. I could barely get through on it. I'm sorry. Okay.
And we're going to welcome
Thank you.
President Benz.
Last one.
Yes, I don't know how this worked out, but I would have an investigation if I was you. Turn it over to the Speaker's office.
President Benz, why don't you just say, are there any questions?
Don't you wish?
You've got the floor.
Are there any questions? Yes.
I am Mort O'Sullivan, the Vice Chairman of the University of West Florida Board of Trustees. I'm also an alumnus of UWF. Today, we're pleased to present to you our 2013-14 update to the UWF work plan. President Benz, Provost Martha Saunders, and SGA President Krista Hill will be providing information about the growth and diversification of the student body at UWF, our strategic enrollment planning and management efforts, and recently implemented as well as planned strategies for moving the university forward. A proposal for an increase in the capital improvement fee will also be presented. Joining us at the table to answer any questions following the presentation are our CFO, Susan Stevenson, and Student Affairs Vice President Bailey. At UWF, the board is committed to planning and investing strategically to build on our strengths, to enhance student learning and the quality of our academic programs and services, and to ensure operational efficiency and continuous improvement. We have directed President Benz and her administrative team to set strategic, quantifiable goals to achieve our articulated mission and vision. We regularly review trend data from UWF and from our peer and aspirant institutions, and have established targets for future performance on key performance indicators. In 2012, we updated our strategic plan, being mindful of the need for it to align with your strategic plan for the system. This plan guides programmatic and budgetary decisions as well as strategic initiatives at the university. We thank you for your support of UWF, and we look forward to providing you with this update as we strive for excellence we believe our students, our region, and our state deserve. Now I would like to turn the presentation over to President Benz.
Thank you. Well, you can't get much farther from Miami than Pensacola. You absolutely can. So we are different. Our area of the state is different, as you could possibly get from Miami. And in the past, what UWF has done really is to serve the three westernmost counties of our state. 85% of our students used to come from that area. And we have about 40,000 students, graduates who live and work in that area. In the past, our students were place-bound, part-time, they commuted, and they lacked diversity. That really has changed. We also have that little squiggly line there on the right is the Apalachicola River, and we have less than 1 million people within that entire 175-mile east-west area. So we're low in population, we're low in income, we're low in density. Most people live along the coast, and we have a summer tourist season. So, but I want to tell you one of the reasons that I said yes to becoming the interim president almost 5 years ago is that I thought that should change. I've been at the university for 33 years. I've seen it grow for a long time. And there are certain things that I have always thought that needed to change at the University of West Florida. And one of those things is the kind of university we should be. What we are now is on that path to a different kind of a university. What we are now is, for example, the number on the screen, 59% of our students come from our portion of the state, that's all. And 26% come from the rest of Florida, mainly from metropolitan areas. We also have 4% of our students who come from Alabama. You can see, in a way, we're trapped in a corner of the state where my office is 11 miles from the Alabama state line. And we have a problem with that because a lot of Alabama students want to come to the University of West Florida. That always hasn't been a good thing, but one of the things that we have done, it has been done in the past, is called Alabama differential. that the statutes say, regulations say that students from Alabama will pay no more to attend the University of West Florida than they do to a school in Alabama. So that gives us a little bit of an advantage. On the other hand, when they graduate, most of them live in Mobile, Baldwin County, the county's just above the state line. They live there and they commute there to UWF, but then they go back to work in Alabama. And that's the other side of the coin. So we also have one of the changes we've been making is not just where our students come from and what they do, but also we're doing high quality learning opportunities, and I want to tell you about some of the changes that we are making now. One of the things is that 22% of our students are now fully online. Our fall head count is now up to 12,679. We were stuck at much lower numbers for a long time. Next thing I want to talk to you about is the composition of our students. For example, we are now engaging in something called strategic enrollment planning and management. This will be a first for the University of West Florida. It is not just growth, it is strategic growth. What kind of a student will succeed is more likely to succeed at the University of West Florida. What's the appropriate balance of first-time in college transfers, graduate students, as well as residential and commuter? We're looking at this very analytically right now. One of the ways that we are investing in our campus is in more residential options. Right now, there are 2,100 plus units on our campus for residents. And in the fall term, 59% of our first time in college lived on campus. Now, we think that's been a big reason for our growth. One of the observable changes is that now more undergraduates are attending full time, and which should reduce the time it takes for them to get a degree. 75% of our undergraduate degree-seeking students are full time. That's a reverse of what it used to be just a few years ago and was for our entire history. Also, 19% of our undergraduates are first in their first generation, first time in their family to go to college. One of the things also is that we are becoming much more diverse. I'm very proud to say that actually our number is 28% of our students are enrolled that are ethnic diversity, and 20% are first generation. And one of the things I've learned as I've talked to parents of first generation students and of our alums who were first generation students is, and not only does it make their lives better, but they expect their kids to go to college. So you kind of multiply that as you bring in and help these students for the first time in their families to go to college. It helps the succeeding generations. So another thing that we're doing is that we've reached out, actually President Hitt has helped me a good bit on his how to apply his stellar program of Direct Connect with the colleges around his university to reach out to our colleges in Northwest Florida. And we have a coalition of the colleges and us, and we have, we call it a Direct Admit. And it's, we have advisors on their campus. We've been investing in those advisors, a seamless transition, backdoor AAs, and also getting them better prepared to succeed in the University of West Florida. Another thing that we also have is adult students that are 29% of our students are 25 years or older. And there's another big deal about the interesting factor about Northwest Florida is one of the reasons why we have such a low population is because it's almost all military bases. We've got the largest military base in the world, 500,000 acres with Eglin Air Force Base. We have more military people pouring into our area now as to the BRAC realignment. They've got the A-35 fighter jets at Eglin. We've got the Army Rangers now relocated from North Carolina to Eglin Air Force Base, where the Special Ops forces also are. One of the things is 30% of our, 23% is higher than 18 on the screen now, of our total student population are military related, all right? 23% of our students are military related. Translation, they're usually transient. they're not there for a long time. That affects our numbers, it affects some of our outcomes and some of our key performance indicators. It is important that we serve our military, we're proud to do that, but on the other hand, they often don't stay to completion. We also are a Yellow Ribbon scholar. We're a member of the Yellow Ribbon group, and along with USF, we're in our 3rd year. We've also been recognized by numerous military organizations for our, we're a top military-friendly school by both Military Advanced Education Magazine and GI Jobs 6 years in a row. We are very veteran-friendly. We have a one-stop shop military veteran center. I just had a cup of coffee there the other day. The guy that runs it is a former submariner, and he really makes bad coffee. And I told him how good it was, and but at any rate, it's a comfortable place in the center of campus, and they hang out there, they talk there, and I've got just numerous thank yous for having that kind of a center on our campus that's theirs, with their counselors, their people, their veterans, counseling new veterans, counseling new young people who have just separated as well as active military. And now I want to talk a little bit about another kind of partners. You know, I don't want to whine about, you know, our area. It's other Florida, as we call it. It's the way Florida used to be. And one of the things about it, low population density, high military, low income, is that our university is real important to that region. I've said it before, but to the new governors, I want to let you know that the University of West Florida is needed in our region in more ways than others. It is one of the bright, shining stars in the region, and they look on us for a lot of other things than other universities in metropolitan areas. So what we have really is we've sort of geared our whole attitude towards helping our community, and we track it, and we're increasingly more intentional in how we decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And we make sure that in our major programs, whether they're academic or whether they're outreach programs, that we continually listen to our community and move along with it. For example, as we try to, and you'll hear from the provost, we try to make sure that our academic programs are tracking along and filling in the gaps of the economic development of the region. And so that's where we're putting our resources, is kind of a roadmap for what we're doing academically and also economically. Let's take Airbus, the big hassle about where Airbus was going to go. Well, it did go into Mobile. And even though Mobile is 45 minutes away and it's in another state, there are a lot of companies that want to locate across the state line in Florida. And so we're serving and putting out a meeting with them to see what kind of a workforce they're going to need and how the university can address that. It is evolving. We also understand that in order for a university of our size and of our mission, we need to develop new sources of revenue. And we've been thinking outside the box for several years on how we're going to build the facilities we need, how we're going to get new sources of revenue, how are we going to leverage the property that we have, how are we going to pay for these facilities that we need, how do we generate new revenue. So we've developed a Business Enterprise Inc., a new DSO, whose sole purpose is to generate new sources of revenue to the University of West Florida. And on the screen in the top center, you'll see a picture of historic reenactors. The university has a controlled jurisdiction responsibility for a good chunk of downtown Pensacola. We have 8 acres, 28 historic properties, and these are the kinds of activities that take place there on a daily basis. It is historic, cultural tourism. It's archaeology, it's history, and it is tourism and economic development. And we're a big player downtown, and people are appreciative of that. Another thing is on the right is a Navy Federal Credit Union. It's the biggest credit union in the world. And they've located, first started with their call center, but now it's grown to a campus of, it's a huge number of employees. and they have they just are building more buildings. They're hiring 1,500 more people. And one of the interesting things about it is they located a call center, and that's pretty a low-end job, but they've expanded there in Pensacola, and now they need to promote those people. And so they're looking to us to educate the folks that are employed by them to offer certificate programs so that they can get promoted. And then they'll get another certificate, they'll get a degree, and they come to us, and this is mainly in business and accounting areas. And so they're working hand in glove, so we're able to take their employees and lift them up and help them get promotions by offering programs on their campus, on their schedule. That's working out very well. Another one is Gulf Power, and talk about STEM. We have electrical engineering, and we did a survey of Gulf Power on where their engineers that they hire come from. University of West Florida has a majority, provides a majority of their new employees that are engineers, and so we know that's working. We have a big new STEM building thanks to previous administrations and the legislature, and it's the Power Labs. Gulf Power funds us, so it's an example of how we work with our partners. The last one I want to tell you about is the National Flight Academy on the bottom right. You know, actually, universities are at the distant end of decision making on what area students want to major in. You know, you're not going to take a student who comes to your door or is interested in history or archaeology and turn them into an engineer. You're not. You're not going to, as much as you want to, all the incentives in the world, you can make it free. And they're not going to take college algebra, trigonometry, and all the other analytical courses it takes to become an engineer because they don't want to be one. So, anyway, it is important, and I want you to know that. It is intentional, our role in the community. Now, student success, one of the things we've done a new strategic plan. We have student success, enhanced student access is job one, and I want to shift now to Provost Saunders, who's going to tell us about how this new strategic plan is going to be put into action. I took too long.
In looking at our headcount and FTE enrollment plans, you can notice that UWF has aimed for measured and steady growth. We're currently reviewing our strategies and are eagerly awaiting our new Assistant Vice President for Strategic Enrollment Planning because we know how important it is to create an accurate plan and implement it. We also know that affordability matters, and in order to maintain affordability, UWF has focused on increasing the amount of privately funded scholarships that are awarded. We are initiating a new study to analyze how we distribute the financial aid that we have to make sure that we're giving students enough or maybe not giving too much so that we maximize the monies that we have. As we approach our 50th anniversary in 2017, we are committed to an academic vision, and the hallmarks of that vision are quality, visibility, and community, and much of what Dr. Benz has just talked to you reflects that vision. A challenge for any comprehensive regional university is to determine that critical balance of access and success. And we have experimented a bit. When we feel like the experiments aren't working, we bring it back and we make a new plan. We have seen some unevenness in the students that we've admitted, as well as student persistence and success rates, and we are very mindful and we are intentional in making the appropriate changes. We struggle, as do our sister institutions, to find the right balance. Our students can work side by side with teacher scholars who are skilled in their fields, who have experience in their fields, and we focus a great deal on experiential learning, undergraduate research, internships, volunteer learning. All of our colleges are very successful. The College of Business has had a marvelous, oh, that clock is going fast, a marvelous year, and I've got to brag about two of them.
That droll doesn't help you, though.
We have our logistics team has consistently been national champions in their logistics competition, and I say that because they have competed successfully against schools you may have heard of, like Michigan State, Penn State, and defeated Michigan State, Penn State, Syracuse, and Ohio State.
Who are they?
Well, I don't know. And then our accounting program has been ranked number 5 this year in first-time pass rate for small accounting programs on the CPA exam. So our students are coming, they're getting a very enriched, hands-on, intentional learning experience. And I will turn the microphone over to one of our graduates, who is student government president, Chris Hill, one of our math graduates.
Good afternoon. I understand this committee does not make the fee decision and the final proposals, but I would like to express the importance of the student life and student success regarding this fee. The Capital Improvement Trust fee would be adding a $2 increase as allowed by the statute. UWF is a growing university interested in becoming more traditional, as you've seen. Our first priority with this fee would be enhancement of the esports complex. This would add 12 NCAA tennis courts to the East Complex and make it more in a consolidated site for the new soccer fields, or for the old soccer fields, the baseball and softball fields, and the office, restroom, and ticket booths. This project is essential to implement improvements outlined in the university's campus master plan. UWF has a very robust men's and women's tennis program, and we are consistently competing at the national level. Our number 2 priority is the location of the recreational sports complex. This is in the center of campus, and we would like to put it in a more convenient location for the additional housing plans. Overall, the outdoor space being vacated by these 2 projects will significantly advance the university's master plan by allowing for more academic, research, student, and housing spaces in the center of our campus. I believe that these enhancements will address student satisfaction, recruitment, retention, and ultimately student success. The students at the University of West Florida support the administration in their transition, strategic, and intentional movements for the University of West Florida. I believe the Board of Governors is here to provide students like me the best education available. Thank you for your consideration of our request.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Husseini. I figured you'd have something to say.
Madam President, when I think it was either last year or the year before, and we talked about the graduation rate and how many students don't graduate and on and on, and you said we have to do business different, and I think I see some of this that is happening here. Can you elaborate a little bit more about doing business differently, and how are you trying to? And I see a tremendous improvement, and going forward, I see what are you doing to get your students to stay and finish in 6 years, and increasing the STEM? What are you doing? What are some of the things you do?
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is to shift to Vice President Bailey, who, along with academic affairs and really everybody in the university, he has the lead on retention. And let him give you a thumbnail sketch of our retention plan.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. This is one of the things that we've been working on for the last year and a half, and it has been an all-out, all-university effort, including the students. And so we are spending time learning. Remember, we're new at this. And so we're spending time gathering the data and learning. And so we have been doing things like engaging the community, engaging our faculty senate and faculty members around the need to have an academic measure of performance earlier in the semester rather than later in the semester. They call that early warning or early alert. And so we moved it up earlier from week 8 when it used to be to week 7. Had a tremendous, almost 100% response rate from faculty in that regard. One of the other things that we wind up doing are also looking at what we call the high DFW. D and F are letter grades, W withdrawal, I are incomplete, and looking at those courses. And then looking to deploy for next year resources to those courses in particular as a matter of course. If you look at the research, you look at the literature, you don't wait till students having a problem. You identify where the problem may be and get at it right from the beginning, not waiting until week 7 or week 8 to make that happen. The other thing that, and I've got a long list of things, I'll just give you one more example here, and that relates to looking at learning communities. That's not a new phenomenon, but a lot of them are residentially based. For us, we don't have any non-residentially based learning communities. And so that's one of the things that we will look at. So for the students who live off campus, how do we engage them around a particular topic, around a particular theme, and make sure that they are having a similar experience to help them be more successful and graduate sooner, as President Benz talked about.
Another thing I want to point out is we just hired a director of retention, and every day that person's waking up, and her one goal is to improve retention. She goes to bed every day tired because she worked all day figuring out new ways to improve retention. We've needed that forever, and now we've got one. And so that gives me a comfort that someone is paying attention to it all of the time. The second factor I want to emphasize that Vice President Bailey brought up is the scope of retention. What we emphasize is retention is everybody's business. You see a student that's lost on campus the first couple weeks of classes, you ask them where they're going, are they lost? You see a family that mother is coming that's upset, you ask her what's the matter. You see somebody having trouble in a class, then a classmate say, can I help you? That kind of approach, it's almost a group approach to retention, I think is also working with us. And so it's not just student affairs, not just academic affairs, it's everybody's business.
So you have made a deliberate, I mean, using Dr. Barron's again, you made a deliberate decision after the conversation we had, and you said we have to do business differently. So you have made a deliberate decision in improving your STEM, in improving graduation rate. Am I correct?
That's right.
Okay. I mean, and I think this is the point with all of our universities to make the deliberate decision, the board and the administration, to understand that the Board of Governors is very interested in quality, and with that goes the STEM and graduation rate and et cetera, et cetera. So thank you.
You bet.
President Benz, I think you've got the votes. So at this point, I would like to ask if there is somebody that would second the motion. A motion to approve the university. What's that? Did you want to speak some more? A motion to approve the University of West Florida's 2013-2014 work plan, excluding those sections of the work plan that require any additional regulatory or procedural review or approval pursuant to law or board regulations, and that the committee accepts the out-year portions of the work plan. That was a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll let Pat second.
Oh.
I think she said.
Did Pat second?
Yeah, I'll second
Governor,
it, or make the motion, whatever, yeah.
Okay, Governor Frost made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Chair Colson seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. That concludes the.
One comment, if we could, before we leave. This is not Judy's first rodeo here. Many of you may not have met her before, but I just want to convey to you how much we love her in Pensacola. She is fantastic for our university. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming and being a part of this. Before we adjourn, I've been requested to allow one of our guests here to say a few words, and he's just returned back from overseas, and we're going to refer to him as Wayne Windmill Huizinga. Wayne?
Welcome back. Thank you. It's nice to be back. It won't take long. I realize I'm standing between everybody and the door, but as I reviewed the plans, a number of things struck me, and I thought rather than interrupting along, not being on the committee, I would wait to the end. We've addressed a lot of them: 4-year graduation rates, 6 of our state university systems graduating under 30%. Even in 6-year, only 6 schools are graduating above 50%, projected out to 2016. Bachelor degrees with excess hours are problematic. Planned enrollment growth is the highest at the universities with the lowest graduation rates, except for University of Central Florida. And distance learning remains low as a percentage. I would ask that the committee would consider a need to set some minimum standards. I understand that it's difficult with the population size, to increase the percentages over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period. But to me, and again, I'm come strictly from the business side, not the education side, if I sat with my board members and saw the increases that were being proposed by the universities, I would respond to them that they were sandbagging the numbers, and that certainly they could dream bigger, do bigger, and figure out what you need to be able to accomplish those. So I think that we're here to enable the universities to continue to do better. And what I think that would be helpful would be come and say, all right, if we gave them minimum goals that they had to meet, and have them come back and say, well, this is what I need in order to achieve what you're asking me to do. Great, then let's have a vote on that. Let's take it to the legislature, let's take it to the governor, and let's figure out how we take and make these a reality. The other thing that I think that is that we don't have a way to share best practices. We've got 3 or 4 large universities that are doing a phenomenal job. Seems to me that they could come along with smaller universities and help them out. We've got the University of Florida that's greatly increasing their STEM degrees. All right, how do we come alongside some of our smaller universities, or retention rates, or graduation rates, or et cetera, et cetera? It seems to me that we've got 2 or 3 universities that are in the same position, where they have low income, high number of Pell Grants, high minority groups that are struggling, and because their folks are working in order to go through school. All right, well, how do we put the 3 of them together and come up with a better way to help to graduate those students? Because we could talk about that all we can do is graduate 50% because of their circumstances, but the 50% that don't graduate are really in a world of trouble if they're already working full-time in order to go to school. So I know we're not going to solve it today, but it seems to me that this group of talented folks that are here, and the Board of Governors staff, that certainly we could come up with some measurements and say, this is where we've got to get to. This is what we believe is acceptable, and what we're not going to settle for anything less, and a time frame, just like we would do in business. Sales goals, whatever, revenue growth, that type of thing that I would see in business, and rather than kind of saying, just come and tell us what you think that you can do. And then let's figure out how that we incent that. You know, we've went ahead and said, if you can become a research school and a preeminent school, that you could get more money. All right, well, what about, setting some goals for the schools that are really kind of lagging, and saying, if you can meet these goals, if you can prove to us, but with hard numbers, hard data, that you can get there, then we'll provide funding to help you to continue to grow and to get back on top of things. So that's my thoughts.
Let me make.
And one last thing, Chancellor Brogan, we need your help. I understand that the plans were due on May 17th. I got my plans when I was in Holland on Saturday night. 765 pages to be reviewed by Tuesday. I got it done, but I spent my Father's Day doing it. I think that it's disrespectful for the universities to not make their deadlines. They hold their students accountable for the deadlines. I know the Board of Governors staff worked all weekend to be able to put all this information together, and I know that was a burden on everybody else. So I would ask, I know it's a lot of data, and there's a lot of things that were outstanding, including how much tuition might go up or not or whatnot, but I think that as a group, and we all take our jobs seriously, that we need time to be able to really analyze and review all the data that's been put together. It's kind of like Christmas. They do a lot of work to put it together, and you do a lot of shopping all year long, and in 30 minutes at my house, great, all the toys are open and it's done. And to that end, I might suggest also that we may need more than the 3 days, or really 1 full day and 2 half days to be able to review all this information. It is the future of our state is in our hands, and we're working with the university system. So those are my remarks.
Thank you, Governor Huizenga.
Windmill
And
Huizenga.
before I turn it over to the chairman to close the meeting, I wanted to make a few comments. First of all, I thought it was a very, very good meeting. I thought a lot of exchange of information, great communication, productive discussions, and I like what President Hitt said. We talked about our points of pride and also our points of concern. When you think about this and where we've come, this is my second year engaged in this process, and we've really come a long ways. And I think having our goals out there, measuring those goals with strong, with real data, is incredibly important. I think this process is a process that there's systems around the country, they haven't even thought about getting to this point. So we ought to, from our standpoint, look at this with a lot of pride as to where we are. There's a long way to go, as we've seen, but it's an evolving process. And to tie in a little bit with what Wayne said, I would like to see at our next retreat some of these issues brought up so that we can discuss them. We can discuss some of the ideas that you came up with. I personally would like to discuss some of the challenges that we've seen. A university based in a military community that struggles with those challenges. How does that affect their goals? Some of the universities that see many of their students move to some of the more established, larger universities. You know, how does that affect their goals, and can we measure that differently so we can get apples to apples? I'm also, quite honestly, struggling with our desire, and I think improvement is good, and so I want to see SAT scores go up, but I also struggle with how many people do we displace and not give them the opportunities in a university setting to get the degree at a pace they can afford and then better their lives. And I'm not saying what's right, I'm saying I struggle with it, but that would be another good topic to explore at a retreat. But I want to thank the committee for their hard work, for reading numerous drafts of these documents, and spending the time, you know, the multiple meetings leading up to this. I want to thank all of you, and then I also want to thank the entire board for participating, because I think it was a very valuable experience for the board to hear all of this, so that we're all better prepared for the discussion tomorrow. And I promised I would now turn it over to Dean, and this concludes our meeting, and then Dean will operate the full board meeting. Can you make it
Mr. Chairman, if I may, under the committee, this committee did look very closely at online education, and I'd like to know where we're headed with. I know the Chancellor has a task force, and I'm trying to understand, while the University of Florida continues to develop the online center, what is the goal of the task force, and where do these things merge? Maybe we can take it on next.
We had a meeting on that last telephonic that we went all through that. That was a whole meeting.
I guess I missed it. Okay.
It's a long discussion, but I can go through it all later.
I'll work.
Okay, we can do that later. Okay, Chairman.
Wayne, I think your comments are incredibly thoughtful and on point. On the logistical aspect of getting the material to you, we can do better.
Can you talk up to a little bit?
We ought to be able to do better. It's a problem for the universities finishing these and getting them to move their schedules back. But at a minimum, we can get you the plans in May, and then get you a short errata sheet of changes that so if there are any changes to what's happened, we can provide that. So the last weekend you're reading 15 pages instead of 700 pages. So I think that's a solvable problem.
Being a narcoleptic, that would be fantastic.
On the bigger problem of setting goals, I would like to put it a little bit in perspective. Getting this information isn't new. I mean, this is 2 years we've been getting this information, and it's a major accomplishment and it's been a lot of work for not only our board staff, but for the universities and their presidents and their boards of trustees. However, if we want to influence behavior, setting goals is good, but ultimately we got to have the power of the purse. We've got to be able to have some performance funding so we can reward those who do well. But I think one of the most interesting comment you had is, I'd like to know, if we want to speed that graduation rate up to a different number, what's it going to cost you? Because then maybe if Florida Gulf Coast needs another $6 million a year, well, at least we have something to go to the legislature says we can change behavior with another $6 million a year for this university. And right now we don't know that. We're being given information that says this is where we are planning on going, given the financial circumstances as we can perceive them, to be. So I think all your comments are right on point, and we will look at them. And we are talking about having a retreat in September, and I could see that would be a subject matter of that retreat.
I'm good all of September except for the third week. I'm in Monaco for the big yacht show, which is big.
Well,
So if you're planning the time,
we were
you're all
planning
welcome
on
to
having
come
the
with.
retreat in Monaco.
The retreat will be in Monaco.
That are bad, I would like to be at the retreat.
I've been on air, Huizinga, and it'll take us all. Having said that, we have now been invited. The meeting today is over. Judy, you want to give us some details about the reception?
Is it on? No. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. It's just a walk across the mall. Just a walk. We're going to go to the Interdisciplinary Sciences building. The top floor is a floor that was to be laboratories and will be laboratories. So we've shelled it out a little bit just so that it's become more of a reception and orientation area. But it's really, really lovely. So we're very pleased to have you just walk right across. And it's not raining. It is not raining. So all is good. I know that there will be several, probably about 15 legislative folks coming, is what I've heard, something around there, and board of trustee members. And so we're looking forward to it. We're ready for you.